I'm Beverly Harrington, 64 years old, and I never thought my only daughter would choose another family over me. Christmas has always been sacred for us, even after my husband passed. So when Amanda called saying she couldn't make it because her mother-in-law was sick, I understood until my neighbors showed me those vacation photos from Hawaii. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. What they didn't expect was how one simple text message would change everything. If you're watching this, drop a comment where you're from and hit subscribe to follow my journey of heartbreak and redemption. Life as a widow isn't what I expected for my golden years. 8 years ago, my husband Robert died suddenly of a heart attack while mowing our lawn on a warm summer day. One minute we were planning our retirement, and the next I was planning his funeral. Amanda was only 16 then, right in the middle of her difficult teenage years, and suddenly I had to be both mother and father. Those first months were a blur of grief counseling, learning to manage finances Robert had always handled, and trying to be strong for our daughter who'd retreat to her room for hours, sobbing into her father's old sweater. Amanda and I formed a special bond through those difficult times. We started weekend traditions. Saturday morning pancakes shaped like animals, afternoon walks in the park, where we'd talk about everything and nothing. I remember how she'd link her arm through mine, her blonde hair catching the sunlight just like her father's used to. I worked overtime at the school administration office to put Amanda through college. It wasn't easy on a single income, but seeing her walk across that stage to receive her diploma made every sacrifice worthwhile. During those college years, our late-night phone calls became our lifeline. She'd call me about exam stress, roommate drama, and eventually about meeting Jordan. Jordan seemed nice enough when Amanda first brought him home during junior year spring break. Tall, well-dressed, confident to the point of arrogance. I had reservations. He had that entitled air of someone who'd never worried about money. But he was polite, helped with dishes without being asked, and most importantly, he made Amanda laugh. I decided to give him a chance, and over time, I genuinely warmed to him, especially when I saw how he looked at my daughter with such adoration. What I didn't anticipate was his family. Jordan's parents, Sandra and William Thompson, owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across 3 states. They lived in a gated community, took regular vacations to Europe, and had very specific ideas about the kind of woman their son should marry. Sandra particularly had an air of superiority that made me feel small in my modest home with its outdated kitchen and secondhand furniture. After the wedding, which the Thompsons insisted on paying for overruling most of Amanda's simpler preferences, I noticed the shift. Amanda's visits became less frequent. Our hour-long phone calls shortened to quick check-ins. She was always in a rush, always had somewhere to be or something to do for Sandra. "Mom, Sandra needs help planning the charity gala." "Mom, we have to go to the Thompsons' lake house this weekend." "Mom, Sandra's teaching me proper table settings for formal dinner parties." Sandra had a way of undermining me that was so subtle, Amanda probably didn't even notice. She'd give Amanda expensive jewelry, then comment, "I wanted to make sure you had something nice to wear to important events." She'd compliment my apple pie by saying, "This reminds me of those simple country desserts my grandmother used to make." When Amanda got a promotion at her marketing firm, Sandra somehow made it sound like it was thanks to Jordan's connections, rather than my daughter's hard work. I tried not to take it personally. I reminded myself that Amanda was building her own life, that marriage changes relationships, that I should be grateful she married into a family that could give her opportunities I never could. But it hurt watching my daughter slowly adopt Sandra's mannerisms, preferences, and even her subtle condescension. Despite feeling increasingly pushed aside, I made efforts to maintain my relationship with Amanda. I'd text her funny memes, mail care packages with her favorite homemade cookies, suggest mother-daughter spa days. Sometimes she'd respond enthusiastically, and we'd have a wonderful day together that felt like old times. But too often these plans would be canceled last minute because something came up with the Thompsons. Christmas had always been our special time. Even after Robert died, we kept our traditions alive. We'd spend Christmas Eve making his favorite sugar cookies from his mother's recipe. We'd watch It's a Wonderful Life while drinking hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. Christmas morning, we'd open presents in our pajamas, no matter how old Amanda got. I still have photos of her at 23, hair disheveled, sitting cross-legged by our modest tree in flannel PJs, tearing into presents with childlike delight. My life in Minnesota is quiet, but fulfilling enough. I live in the same 3-bedroom ranch house where Amanda grew up. The neighborhood has changed. Younger families moving in, renovating the mid-century homes. But my house remains largely the same, filled with memories of Robert and Amanda. I get by on Robert's pension and my part-time job at the local library. It's not much, but it's enough for me. After Robert died, the silence in the house was deafening. I joined a book club at the library, became more involved in my church community, started volunteering at the animal shelter. I made friends. Martha next door, who brings me tomatoes from her garden. Judith from my book club, who lost her husband around the same time I lost Robert Frank from church, who occasionally fixes things around my house and not so subtly hints at taking me to dinner. Life goes on, as they say. This Christmas, I was particularly excited. Amanda and Jordan hadn't visited for the holiday in 2 years. Last year they went to the Thompsons, and the year before they took a cruise. But this year, Amanda promised they would come. I spent weeks planning everything. I found vintage ornaments similar to ones from Amanda's childhood that had broken over the years. I ordered special ingredients for Robert's mother's cookies. I even splurged on a new guest room comforter and bought those fancy bath products Amanda likes. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. Amanda was vague about arrival times. She'd delay responding to my texts about Christmas dinner preferences. Whenever I brought up holiday plans, she'd quickly change the subject. But I was so happy about having her home, I ignored these red flags, choosing to believe everything was fine. I was so wrong. The phone call came 3 days before Christmas. I was in the middle of stringing lights around the fireplace mantel when my cell phone rang, Amanda's smiling face lighting up the screen. "Mom, I have some bad news," she said, her voice tight with stress. "Sandra's really sick. She's been diagnosed with pneumonia, and Jordan's really worried about her." My heart sank, but I tried to sound supportive. "I'm so sorry to hear that. Is she in the hospital?" "No, she's at home, but the doctor says she needs constant care. Jordan's dad is useless at this stuff, and Jordan needs to handle some year-end business things." Amanda's words tumbled out in a rush. "Mom, I'm so sorry, but we can't come for Christmas. Jordan's insisting I stay to help take care of Sandra." I gripped the phone tighter, looking at the fresh pine garland I'd hung just that morning. "What about coming after Christmas once Sandra's a bit better?" "The doctor says she'll be bedridden for at least 2 weeks, Amanda replied quickly. "It's really bad, Mom." "What if I came there instead?" I suggested. "I could help care for Sandra too. We could all have Christmas together." Amanda's response was immediate and firm. No, that won't work. The house is a mess with Sandra being sick, and you know how private she is about her health. Plus, there's the risk of you catching it too at your age." At my age. As if 64 made me fragile. I swallowed my hurt. "Well, what about New Year's then?" "I don't know, Mom. Let's just see how things go with Sandra. I promise I'll call you on Christmas Day. Okay, I've already mailed your presents. They should arrive tomorrow." Ew. The conversation ended with Amanda promising again to call on Christmas, her voice already distant as if her mind was elsewhere. I stood in my living room surrounded by decorations meant for a celebration that wouldn't happen and tried to understand. Of course, Sandra needed care if she was seriously ill. Of course, Jordan was concerned about his mother. Of course, Amanda wanted to support her husband and help her mother-in-law. I spent the rest of the day adjusting my plans. I called the butcher to change my order from a large turkey to a small chicken. I rearranged the presents under the tree, pushing Amanda and Jordan's gifts to the back. I called Judith to see if I could join her family's Christmas dinner, but they were traveling to their daughter's home in Wisconsin. Christmas Eve arrived with a light snowfall that would normally have delighted me. I went through the motions of my traditions alone. I made a single batch of sugar cookies, but my heart wasn't in it. I started watching It's a Wonderful Life, but turned it off halfway through when I found myself crying at scenes that had never made me emotional before. I went to bed early, hoping sleep would make the holiday pass faster. Christmas morning dawned bright and clear, sunlight reflecting off the fresh snow and streaming through my bedroom window. The house felt emptier than usual as I made my coffee and sat by the tree in my robe. No excited footsteps coming down the hallway, no laughter as we exchanged gifts. Just silence and the occasional tick of the grandfather clock Robert had restored the year before he died. I waited by the phone all morning. Amanda had always been an early riser on Christmas, even as an adult. But the call didn't come until almost noon. When it finally did, I answered immediately. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart. How's Sandra doing?" "Merry Christmas, Mom," Amanda replied, sounding oddly rushed. "Sandra's about the same. The medication makes her sleep a lot." As we spoke, I noticed sounds in the background that seemed strange. Was that Wave's music? It certainly didn't sound like a house with a seriously ill person. "It sounds busy there," I commented. "Oh, Jordan's watching TV in the other room. Listen, Mom, I can't talk long. Sandra just woke up and needs her medication." "Of course, dear. Will you call again later? I'm just sitting here all day." "I'll try, Mom. It's just really hectic. I need to go now. Love you." And she was gone. The entire call had lasted less than 2 minutes. I sat staring at my phone, that nagging feeling growing stronger. Something wasn't right. I tried to distract myself with the Christmas movie marathon I'd planned. I opened the few presents I had. A scarf from Judith bath salts from my book club friends, a gift card to the local cafe from Frank. I called my sister in Arizona and chatted with her family on speakerphone. I texted holiday wishes to friends and coworkers. Around 4, Martha knocked on my door with a plate covered in foil. "I made too much food as usual," she said with a knowing smile. "Thought you might like some." I invited her in, grateful for the company. Martha was a kind woman in her 70s who had lost her husband to cancer 5 years ago. She understood loneliness. "Amanda couldn't make it," she asked gently as I poured her a glass of wine. "No, her mother-in-law is sick with pneumonia. Amanda's helping care for her." Even as I said it, doubt crept into my voice. Martha patted my hand. "Family is complicated, especially around the holidays." She stayed for an hour telling me about her grandchildren's Christmas morning antics. After she left, the house felt even emptier than before. I went to bed early again, telling myself that at least tomorrow wouldn't be Christmas anymore. 2 days after Christmas, I was still feeling down, but trying to move forward. I'd taken down most of the decorations, unable to look at them any longer. I was sorting through the holiday cards on my mantle when Martha knocked on my door again. "Beverly, do you have a minute?" she asked, her face unusually serious. "Of course, come in." I led her to the living room. "Is everything all right?" Martha sat on the edge of the sofa, clutching her phone. "I don't quite know how to show you this," she began, her voice hesitant. "My niece Kayla follows your daughter on Instagram. She saw some posts yesterday and recognized Amanda from the photos in my house. She sent me screenshots because she knew you and I are neighbors." Martha handed me her phone, her expression pained. I took it confused at first about what I was seeing. Then it hit me like a physical blow. There on the screen was Amanda's sunglasses pushed up on her head, smiling broadly with her arm around Jordan on what was clearly a tropical beach. The location tag read, "Four Seasons Resort Maui at Wailea." The caption, "Best Christmas ever, #holiday vibes, #family time." My hands shaking, I swiped to the next photo. This one showed a group at dinner raising champagne glasses. Amanda, Jordan, William, and there in the center looking radiantly healthy was Sandra. The Christmas decorations in the restaurant were clearly visible. "There are more," Martha said quietly. "Kayla sent me everything she found." I swiped through image after image. Sandra sunbathing by an infinity pool, the whole family on what appeared to be a yacht. Jordan and his father golfing on a lush green course. Amanda and Sandra shopping bags from designer stores visible in their hands. "Check the dates," Martha suggested gently. The oldest posts were from December 23rd. The day after Amanda told me Sandra was bedridden with pneumonia. Some were specifically tagged Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. "I need to check something," I whispered, reaching for my own phone with trembling hands. I opened Facebook and went to William's page. He wasn't very active, but there it was. A check-in at Honolulu International Airport from December 22nd with the caption, "Annual family Christmas vacation begins annual." This wasn't spontaneous. This was planned. I looked up at Martha, vision blurring with tears. They planned this. They knew all along they were going to Hawaii for Christmas. Amanda lied to me about Sandra being sick. Martha moved to sit beside me, putting her arm around my shoulders. "I'm so sorry, Beverly. I debated whether to show you, but I thought you deserved to know the truth." "They're all there together. Family time," she called it. My voice cracked. "But I'm not included in that family, am I?" Martha's anger on my behalf was palpable. "It's disgraceful. That girl was raised better than this." After Martha left promising to check on me later, I spent hours examining every social media account I could find. William had posted photos of their Thompson family Christmas tradition. Apparently, they'd been going to Hawaii every other year for the holidays. There were even photos from 2 years ago when Amanda had told me they were staying at the Thompsons for a quiet Christmas. The photos revealed expensive Christmas gifts exchanged between Amanda and the in-laws. Sandra wearing a designer watch that must have cost thousands. Amanda opening a small blue box that could only be from Tiffany's. Meanwhile, my carefully chosen, modestly priced gifts would be sitting in a mailroom somewhere perhaps not even forwarded to Hawaii. That night was one of the worst since Robert died. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I kept replaying years of interactions with Sandra, seeing clearly now how she had systematically drawn Amanda away from me. I questioned everything about my relationship with my daughter. Had I been a bad mother? Had I been too clingy? Did I deserve to be abandoned this way? The physical pain of this betrayal was real. My chest felt tight, my stomach knotted. I alternated between crying jags and sitting in numb silence. By morning I looked as if I'd been ill, my eyes swollen skin, pale hair uncombed. I called in sick to the library. I couldn't face people, couldn't maintain the facade that everything was fine when my world was crumbling. My daughter, my only child, the person I loved most in this world, had chosen a vacation with her in-laws over Christmas with her widowed mother, and she had lied about it cruelly and deliberately. What hurt most wasn't just the Hawaii trip. It was that Amanda thought so little of me, respected me so little, that she didn't even bother to come up with a convincing lie. She knew I wouldn't question her, wouldn't challenge her story. She knew I would accept whatever scraps of attention she offered because that's what I'd been doing for years. The week after discovering Amanda's deception passed in a fog. I ignored calls from friends concerned about my absence from book club and church. I couldn't bear to explain what had happened, couldn't stand the thought of their pity. One evening, I found myself pulling old photo albums from the closet. I sat on my bedroom floor surrounded by memories captured in fading photographs. Amanda's first steps, her kindergarten graduation with a gap-toothed smile, Robert teaching her to ride a bike, his hand steady on the seat as she pedaled forward. Then photos after Robert died. Just Amanda and me figuring out our new normal. Amanda at her high school graduation, both of us with brave smiles masking our sadness that Robert wasn't there to see it. The two of us painting her dorm room. Her college graduation, my arm tight around her waist. I remembered the sacrifices I'd made as a single mother. Working 2 jobs to pay for Amanda's dance lessons because they made her happy during the darkest days of her grief. Skipping meals when money was tight so Amanda could go on a school trip to Washington, D.C., driving an old car with no air conditioning for years so we could save for her college fund. As I looked at these photographs, I began to see my relationship with Amanda through a different lens. I saw how Sandra had inserted herself into our dynamic using her wealth and social standing to make me feel inadequate. The expensive birthday gifts I could never match. The vacations I could never afford to take Amanda on. The country club connections that helped Amanda's career in ways my library friends never could. I saw Jordan's role too, his dependency on his parents' wealth and approval. How he never stood up to Sandra when she made those subtle digs at me. How he encouraged Amanda to spend more time with his family, citing their connections and influence. My sadness began to transform into anger, not just at Sandra and Jordan, but at Amanda for allowing herself to be pulled away from me, and at myself for being so afraid of losing her that I never confronted the situation. The next day, my sister Judith called. She'd been trying to reach me for days. "Beverly, what's going on?" Martha called me. "She's worried about you." I finally broke down and told her everything. The lie about Sandra's illness, the Hawaii photos, the years of feeling secondary to the Thompsons. "Oh, Bev," Judith sighed. "Families change when kids get married. You know that. Remember how Mom was hurt when you and Robert moved to Minnesota?" "This isn't the same," I insisted. "Mom was hurt, but we still called her every Sunday. We visited for holidays. We never lied to her about where we were or what we were doing." "You're right," Judith conceded. "What Amanda did was wrong. But honey, you've been letting this situation build for years. Every time you bit your tongue when Sandra made one of her comments. Every time you rearranged your schedule at the last minute because Amanda canceled. Every time you pretended it was okay, that you were an afterthought in your daughter's life." Judith's words stung because they were true. I had seen the patterns, but had been too afraid of pushing Amanda away to address them. Later that day, I found myself reflecting on other incidents where Amanda had chosen Jordan's family over me. The time she missed my birthday dinner because Sandra had last-minute symphony tickets. The weekend she was supposed to help me put up new kitchen cabinets but canceled because the Thompsons decided to take their boat out. The Thanksgiving where I sat alone because Amanda and Jordan went to a destination wedding with his parents, a couple they barely knew. I began to recognize that I'd been enabling this behavior. I never confronted Amanda, never told her how hurt I was, never set boundaries or expectations. I was so afraid of being the difficult mother-in-law that I had become invisible. The turning point came 3 days later. I was standing in my kitchen making tea, staring out at the snowy backyard where Amanda used to build snowmen with her father. Sunlight glinted off the icicles hanging from the eaves, creating prisms of light across the white expanse. In that quiet moment of beauty, I had a moment of clarity. I deserved better than this. I deserved honesty from my daughter. I deserved to be prioritized sometimes, not just when it was convenient. I deserved respect. I didn't want revenge. I wanted accountability. I wanted Amanda to see what she'd done, to understand the pain she'd caused, and to make different choices in the future. Not out of guilt or obligation, but because she valued our relationship. For years, I'd been the understanding one, the one who made excuses, the one who accepted less than I deserved. It was time for that to change. Over the next few days, I drafted and deleted dozens of text messages to Amanda. Some were too angry, others too passive. Some rambled with years of accumulated hurt, others were too terse to convey the depth of my feelings. Finally, I settled on something direct, but not accusatory, something that would make Amanda understand the consequences of her choices without putting her on the defensive. I selected the clearest photo Martha's niece had shared, one of Amanda Jordan and a very healthy-looking Sandra on a Hawaiian beach on Christmas Day, all smiles and sunglasses. I attached it to a text and wrote, "I hope Hawaii was worth missing our last Christmas together. I won't be around forever and I won't be available next year. Enjoy your new family." I hit send before I could second-guess myself, then immediately turned off my phone, my hands shaking. I felt simultaneously empowered and terrified. This wasn't like me. I didn't confront, didn't make waves. But something had shifted inside me. For the first time in years, I was putting myself first. My phone remained off for the rest of the day as I cleaned my house from top to bottom, channeling my nervous energy into scrubbing floors and organizing closets. When I finally turned it back on the next morning, it exploded with notifications. 15 missed calls from Amanda. 23 text messages, each more frantic than the last. "Mom, I can explain." "Mom, please pick up. I'm so sorry." "It wasn't my idea. Sandra planned everything." "Please call me back. I'm worried about you." "Mom, this isn't like you." There were also calls from Jordan, and even one from Sandra herself. I didn't listen to any of the voicemails. I didn't want their explanations or excuses. I wanted them to feel what I had felt. Ignored, unimportant, forgotten. I called Martha. "I need a favor," I said. "I'm taking a few days for myself. If anyone comes looking for me, don't tell them where I've gone." Martha, bless her, didn't ask questions. "Take all the time you need, dear. I'll keep an eye on your house." I packed a small bag and drove 3 hours north to a lakeside cabin owned by my friend Diane from book club. She used it mainly in summer, but kept it available year-round for friends who needed a retreat. The cabin was small but cozy with a fireplace and a view of the frozen lake. The solitude was exactly what I needed. For 3 days, I walked in the woods, read books by the fire, and thought about what I wanted my relationship with Amanda to look like going forward. I journaled pages and pages of feelings I'd been suppressing for years. I cried when I needed to and sat in silence when tears wouldn't come. Martha texted me updates. Amanda had shown up at my house the day after I left, clearly upset when no one answered the door. She'd returned twice more once with Jordan. They'd asked neighbors if anyone had seen me. Jordan had called Frank from church and Judith trying to locate me. The desperation in their search gave me no pleasure. I wasn't trying to punish Amanda or make her worry. I just needed space to process my feelings without her explanations clouding my judgment. My phone continued to fill with messages. Amanda's moved from panic to explanation. Apparently, the Hawaii trip was an annual Thompson family tradition. Sandra had insisted Amanda and Jordan come this year, had bought the tickets months ago. Amanda had tried to tell her she wanted to spend Christmas with me, but Sandra had made a huge scene. Jordan had sided with his mother, and Amanda had felt trapped. Then messages from Jordan claiming it had all been a misunderstanding, that they'd meant to invite me too, but weren't sure I'd want to travel, that next year would be different. Even Sandra sent a message, her tone condescending, even in text. "Beverly dear, I'm so sorry for this mix-up. We certainly didn't mean to exclude you. Perhaps next year you can join us, though I know at your age long flights can be difficult." None of these messages acknowledged the real issue. The lie about Sandra's illness. The deliberate deception. The fact that they had all conspired to exclude me and then hide what they were doing. On the fourth day, I drove home feeling stronger and clearer than I had in years. It was time to face Amanda and reclaim my dignity. I arrived home in the early afternoon to find Amanda sitting on my front porch, despite the cold bundled in her coat, with a travel mug of what was probably cold coffee. When she saw my car pull into the driveway, she stood up, her face pale and drawn with worry. "Mom?" She called, rushing toward me as I got out of the car. "Where have you been? I've been so worried." I regarded her calmly as I retrieved my bag from the back seat. "I needed some time to think, Amanda. Let's go inside." In my living room, Amanda burst into tears. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I know what it looked like, but it wasn't what you think." "What exactly do you think it looked like?" I asked quietly, hanging up my coat. "Because from where I stand, it looked like my daughter lied to me about her mother-in-law being seriously ill so she could vacation in Hawaii instead of spending Christmas with her widowed mother." Amanda flinched at my directness. "It wasn't like that," she protested weakly. "Sandra had planned this trip months ago. She'd already paid for everything. When I told her I wanted to spend Christmas with you, she got really upset." "So you decided to lie to me rather than stand up to her." "I didn't know what else to do." Jordan was siding with her, saying we couldn't disappoint his parents after they'd gone to all this trouble. I felt trapped between everyone. I sat down across from her, maintaining eye contact. "Amanda, I'm not interested in shallow apologies or excuses. What hurts most isn't just this Christmas. It's the pattern of behavior over years. I've become an afterthought in your life, someone to fit in when the Thompsons don't need you." Amanda started to protest, but I held up my hand. "Let me finish. When your father died, it was just you and me against the world. We had each other's backs. But ever since you married Jordan, I've watched you slowly drift away. Not just physically, but emotionally. Every time Sandra makes one of her subtle digs at me, you say nothing. Every time they plan something that excludes me, you go along with it." "That's not fair," Amanda whispered. "You don't understand the pressure they put on me." "I understand pressure, Amanda. I raised you alone while working full-time after your father died. I made it work because you were my priority." My voice caught. "Do you know what it felt like to see those photos, to realize that not only were you not with me on Christmas, but you were all having the time of your lives while I sat here alone, actually worried about Sandra's health?" Amanda's tears flowed freely now. "I never meant to hurt you, Mom. But you did hurt me. Deeply." I leaned forward. "And this isn't the first time. It's just the first time I'm refusing to pretend it's okay." The front door opened then, and Jordan walked in without knocking. His expression was a mix of relief and defensiveness. "Beverly, thank God. Amanda's been out of her mind with worry." He moved to stand behind Amanda's chair, his hand on her shoulder. "This has all been a huge misunderstanding." I looked up at my son-in-law. "There was no misunderstanding, Jordan. Amanda lied to me about your mother being sick, so you could all go to Hawaii without feeling guilty about leaving me alone on Christmas." Jordan's face flushed. It wasn't like that. Mom had been planning this trip for months. It's a family tradition. I'm family too, I said simply. Or at least I thought I was. That seemed to stop him short. He looked down at Amanda, then back at me. Of course you are, he said less certainly. It's just complicated with Mom. It's only complicated because you and Amanda allow it to be, I replied. Let me be clear about something. I'm not going to compete with your mother for Amanda's time and attention anymore. I'm not going to accept being lied to or treated as an obligation rather than a priority. I turned back to Amanda. Moving forward, these are my expectations. 1, complete honesty even when the truth is uncomfortable. 2, if Sandra says something unkind or dismissive about me, I expect you to address it in the moment, not laugh it off or ignore it. 3, I want to be included in family plans when appropriate, not as an afterthought. Amanda nodded, looking somewhat shell-shocked by my newfound assertiveness. If these things can't happen, then I'll adjust my expectations of our relationship accordingly. I'll always love you, Amanda. You're my daughter, but I won't allow myself to be treated this way anymore. Jordan's phone rang, breaking the tension. He glanced at it. It's Mom, he said to Amanda. He started to step out of the room to take the call, but I stopped him. Take it here, I said. Put it on speaker. Jordan hesitated, then answered, putting the phone on speaker as requested. Jordan, darling, have you found Beverly yet? Amanda's been simply hysterical. I told her Beverly was probably just being dramatic to get attention. I saw Amanda wince at her mother-in-law's words. Jordan cleared his throat. Actually, Mom Beverly is here with us now. You're on speakerphone. There was a moment of silence. Oh, well, hello, Beverly. Glad to hear you're all right. You gave everyone quite a scare with your disappearing act. Before I could respond, Jordan spoke up, his voice surprisingly firm. Mom, that's not fair. Beverly had every right to be upset after what we did. What we did? We invited you on a lovely family vacation. If Beverly feels left out, perhaps next year. Mom, Jordan interrupted. We lied to Beverly. We told her you were sick with pneumonia when actually you were fine, and we were all going to Hawaii. It was wrong, and we owe her a genuine apology. Another silence, longer this time. Well, I hardly think... No, Mom. Jordan said, his voice stronger now. We were wrong. All of us. We hurt Beverly, and we need to acknowledge that. I looked at Jordan with newfound respect. It seemed my directness was having an effect on him too. Sandra's voice turned cold. I see. Well, if that's how you feel, we'll discuss this when you're thinking more clearly. Goodbye. The call ended abruptly. Jordan looked at his phone, then at Amanda, who seemed both shocked and impressed by his stand against his mother. I've never spoken to her like that, he admitted. It's about time you did, Amanda said quietly, reaching for his hand. I nodded in agreement. This isn't about vilifying Sandra or making anyone choose sides. It's about establishing boundaries and expectations for how we treat each other. Sandra has controlled the narrative in this family for too long, and it's hurt all of us in different ways. As we continued talking through the afternoon, I began to see glimmers of the daughter I remembered. Amanda admitted she'd felt increasingly trapped between loyalties, afraid of disappointing either me or the Thompsons. Jordan acknowledged how his fear of confronting his mother had put unfair pressure on Amanda. By the time they left that evening, nothing was magically fixed. Years of patterns wouldn't change overnight. But we had made a beginning, brought hidden hurts into the light, and opened a door to a different kind of relationship. The months following our confrontation brought slow but meaningful changes. Amanda and I began attending counseling together, unpacking years of unspoken feelings and building healthier communication patterns. The therapist helped us identify how Sandra's controlling behavior had affected our relationship and gave us tools to address it. Jordan surprised us all by establishing firm boundaries with his parents. He and Amanda declined several Thompson family events to spend time with me instead. When Sandra complained or tried to manipulate them, Jordan stood his ground in a way he never had before. I worked on myself too, forming new Christmas traditions that didn't depend solely on Amanda's presence. I hosted a Christmas cookie exchange for my book club friends. I volunteered to serve Christmas dinner at the homeless shelter. I started planning a trip to Arizona to visit Judith for the following Christmas. These activities weren't replacements for time with my daughter, but they reminded me that my happiness didn't have to depend entirely on her. Sandra predictably didn't accept these changes easily. She sent extravagant gifts to Amanda and Jordan, clearly trying to remind them of the lifestyle she could provide. She had health scares that mysteriously resolved once Amanda and Jordan adjusted their plans to accommodate her. She made tearful phone calls about how she was being pushed aside in her old age. In the past, these tactics had worked. Now Amanda and Jordan recognized them for what they were, manipulation attempts, and responded with compassionate firmness. "We're sorry you're feeling unwell, Sandra, but we've already committed to having dinner with Beverly tonight. We can come by tomorrow instead." I found myself rebuilding my life beyond motherhood in ways I hadn't expected. Martha introduced me to her women's hiking group. Frank from church finally convinced me to go to dinner, and while romance wasn't in the cards, we developed a comfortable friendship. I took a creative writing class at the community college and discovered a talent for short stories. When the next Christmas approached, we planned differently. Amanda and Jordan would spend Christmas Eve and morning with me, then go to the Thompsons for dinner. The following day, we would all gather at Amanda and Jordan's home, yes, even Sandra and William, for a neutral ground celebration. It wasn't perfect. Sandra made several passive-aggressive comments about my store-bought pie compared to her homemade one. William seemed uncomfortable with the whole arrangement, but we got through it with more grace than I would have thought possible a year earlier. Later, when Amanda and I had a moment alone in her kitchen, she hugged me tightly. "I'm so sorry for everything, Mom. For taking you for granted. For not standing up for you. For lying." "I know, sweetheart," I said, smoothing her hair as I had when she was small. "What matters is that we're fixing it now." "I was so afraid of losing you when you sent that text," she admitted. "Those days when we couldn't find you were the worst of my life. I kept thinking about all the things I should have said and done differently." "Sometimes we need a wake-up call," I told her. I needed one too. I needed to remember my own worth to stop accepting scraps of your time and attention because I was afraid of losing you completely. The truth is, the greatest gift I gave myself wasn't forgiveness. It was the courage to demand respect. Family isn't just who you're born to or who you marry. It's who treats your heart with care. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to accept anything less. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself with family members? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more stories about navigating complex family dynamics with grace and strength. And if you know someone who might need to hear this message of self-respect and boundary setting, share this video with them. Remember, it's never too late to change family patterns and create healthier relationships. Thank you for listening, and may your holidays be filled with genuine love and respect.